Come along to Education and Children's headquarters on Peel Road, talking with the Minister and also the Director of Education. We've got the press release, which I think most people have been expecting for some time. This is about students going to university are going to have to start paying, or the parents, whatever. You've announced this. Give us some details.
Yeah, we've briefed Tynwald members this afternoon and we're talking to the press after that. But what it basically means is from students starting from 2013 will be affected by the awards grant. Those that start in 2013 note the fees will be waived for the first year, because we appreciate a lot of students have already accepted places at universities, so they will be caught from 2014 and 15 if you like, so for the second and third year of their course.
Details, why have you decided, I mean, you know, this is something that you didn't have to do, did you? I mean, or are you being forced into it?
It's not a case of not having to do it, we have to do it, absolutely. We've got a set budget, and like every other department, we have to hold to that. The department has saved or had their budget cut by £11 million over the last 3 years, and this is the only thing that we can do now to fulfil our statutory obligations to education. You know, this is the only place where we can go to save so much money over the next 3 years.
But your director here is the one that had to put all the details together. You come up with this scheme, presumably. You're just rubber stamping it in Tynwald.
No, I think we disagree about whether it's being rubber stamped.
Absolutely.
Our minister's been fully involved in this all the way through. However, what we have done is to look at the jurisdictions that surround us. It's very clear that England accepted some time ago that it couldn't sustain free university places for students, and students in England pay £9,000 a year towards their tuition costs. If you look at Jersey and Guernsey, which are perhaps more similar to us in many ways, in Jersey, for instance, all students pay a £1,500 a year contribution, and parents are means tested from £48,000 a year. What we've done is look at those examples and see what we can learn from the Isle of Man, and come up with a scheme that we think is far fairer, that shares the cost between the student and the state in a way that's quite equitable. And the detail of that scheme is very, very simple and straightforward. Every student going to university from 2013 onwards, but as the Minister said, waived for the first year for that group of students, will pay £2,500 a year as a universal contribution towards their university fees.
Right.
That will be backed by a loan from Treasury for the vast majority of students, so that nobody won't be able to go because they can't afford the £2,500. The only families where that won't be the case are families earning more than £100,000 where the Treasury loan won't be available. Beyond that, there is going to be an element of means testing for the rest of the fee. But that means testing will only start to have an impact on families when their income is in excess of £80,000 a year. And even at £85,000 a year, the annual impact is only £1,750. It's only when you earn £100,000 or more that you're seeing parents and families being asked to contribute the full amount.
And how many people will that affect? Not many.
Not that many. We think. I mean, obviously it varies year on year, but we expect it to hit over a 3-year period 300 or 400 families.
The fact of the matter is that Joe Bloggs with their kids are going to have to find a lot of money to put over the years to pay for this, and then pay back to the government.
Yeah, yes, the answer is yes to that. I mean, whether you think £7,500 for a 3-year course is a lot of money. It's a lot compared to what they're not paying now, but compared to what the jurisdictions in the Channel Islands and the UK are paying, you know, England, it's not as much.
You briefed the members of Tynwald today. How did it go down?
They were expecting it, obviously, after my answer in Tynwald this week. It was a mixed reaction, I think. But I think, to be fair, a lot of the members were understanding as, you know, what the decision that we've come out with and the package we put on the table today. I think they thought it was actually quite reasonable compared to what some of them did think was going to be put forward.
I won't be the only journalist that had the phone ringing off its hook with people, you know, from that meeting already getting themselves into quite a lather, and you're going to have a rough ride to get this through Tynwald.
Yes, absolutely, and nothing's set until it goes to Tynwald next month. I appreciate that, but you know, and that's part of politics. I don't want to do this. We have to do it. You know, we've got nowhere else to go if we want to look after the other services that we deliver.
A lot of people say that the whole idea of the preschool issue was to solve this problem. I mean, this was your predecessor, admittedly. That hasn't solved the problem, clearly.
That wasn't the case to solve the problem. I mean, what they did with preschool was to solve the budget for last year, if you like, or this year. You know, this has to go. This is a 3-year plan for the department to balance, to help Treasury and the rest of the government balance our books. You know, yes, we don't want to do it, but to stay as we are and provide the service that we are, this is a package that we have to deliver to help do that.
I think what's important to state is that we have reviewed all areas of our provision, but particularly our non-statutory provision. Preschool was part of our non-statutory provision. Higher education is part of non-statutory provision. However, higher education costs us currently around £11 million out of an approximate £95 million budget. That's a huge amount of money that we are spending on a non-statutory part of our provision, and we need to get a balance in there. Had we not done what we did with preschool last year, then the amount we would needed to have taken out of this process would be even greater. So we'd probably be looking at another £1,000 a year in terms of universal contribution.
But if it hadn't been for the previous minister, you would have gone for this earlier anyway, wouldn't you? I mean, can't you now revisit the preschools and say, well, we don't need to attack you now, we can go back and put you into the system?
I don't think we've attacked preschool. I would dispute that entirely. I think what we've got developing fairly rapidly in our preschool provision now is a much more universal system that much better meets the needs of children and families, and isn't a postcode lottery in the way that it was previously. And we were spending a huge amount of taxpayers' money on a system that was basically unfair.
Okay, back to this then. Is this the end of it, or will this be just the beginning of charging students? I mean, will it increase and end up like the UK model eventually?
Well, as I say, I mean, we bring a student award paper to Tynwald every year. This I'll be bringing in December. Hopefully, you know, this is a 3-year plan from the department's point of view, working with Treasury. So for the next 3 years, hopefully, this won't change. Who can say, you know, we can't see into the future.
So it might go up. I mean, you're not ruling it out then? More costs to be incurred.
We'd be stupid to rule anything out, but what we're saying is that this is part of our 3-year plan for budgeting for the department. We don't anticipate, unless something that nobody knows about happens, that we will need to make changes over that 3-year period.
Do you think you will get the approval of Tynwald? I mean, you've got the Council of Ministers block vote, so you're pretty well there.
I hope it will. I hope it will. And it just depends. I know members will talk to each other over the next 2 weeks, and they'll be talked to and at by their constituents as well. Those that have great concerns about what's going to happen. So I honestly don't know. I would like to think that members will do the responsible thing and vote with it, because the department has no other choice at the moment. To balance the books for the next 3 years, we have to do this. Otherwise, it'll have to come from somewhere else.
Because we're a low tax area, we have to do this.
Because of the system that we have, yes.
Yeah. So people who, the children who are going off to university this year will be okay, is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is that anybody who is currently at university, so anybody who started last year or previously, nothing changes for them. They don't need to worry about this at all. It'll have no impact.
But there's 1 year grace, right?
But if you go in 2013, these regulations affect you, but within the regulation, just for the people who go in 2013, there is a waiver for the first year. So you've got the rest of this year and the whole of the first year at university to make plans for how you're going to fund year 2 and onwards.